Democrat Joe Biden edged closer to victory over Donald Trump for the U.S. presidency on Thursday as election officials continued to tally votes in the handful of states that will decide the outcome.
There are millions of unsolicited ballots being sent all over.
President Trump, who during a long and rancorous campaign attacked the integrity of the U.S. voting system and alleged voting fraud without providing evidence, filed lawsuits and called for at least one state recount. Some legal experts called the challenges a long shot unlikely to affect the eventual outcome of the election. Biden was leading in Nevada and Arizona and closing in on Trump in Pennsylvania and Georgia. Georgia's voting system implementation manager, Gabriel Sterling, on Thursday said there were still some 60,000 ballots left to be counted, and they were still being tallied with accuracy.
These are 159 elections directors and employees who are here to do the job of protecting democracy. These are people who are not involved in voter fraud. These people are not involved in voter suppression. I'm telling you, they're doing their jobs every day. It is hard, and we are thankful to them for it, and we're going to work with them to make sure that every legal, lawful ballot is counted.
Trump has to win the states where he is still ahead, including North Carolina, plus either Arizona or Nevada, to triumph and avoid becoming the first incumbent U.S. president to lose a re-election bid since fellow Republican George H.W. Bush in 1992. The counting and court challenges set the stage for days, if not weeks, of uncertainty before December 8th, the deadline to resolve election disputes.
So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court.
President Donald Trump, in the early hours of Wednesday morning, vowed to bring a case before the U.S. Supreme Court to weigh in on an election that is still too close to call, launching an extraordinary and unsubstantiated attack on the U.S. voting process.
This is a major fraud in our nation.
But legal experts say it's unlikely the top court will be the final arbiter in the 2020 presidential election. Reuters legal correspondent Jan Wolf.
There's this term that lawyers use called the margin of litigation in election law, this idea that the race has to be very close for a court to be able to tip it. And it's not clear at this point that we have that. In Bush versus Gore, it all came down to Florida, which was super, super close. Biden might win enough states that there's no way for Trump to litigate his way to victory.
We want all voting to stop.
For the Supreme Court to become involved in this election, there has to be some sort of serious legal argument for it to entertain. Let's stop vote counting early is not a serious argument. The Trump campaign has gotten the attention of the Supreme Court with an argument that in Pennsylvania, ballots that arrive after November 3rd should not be counted. For now, Pennsylvania is sticking with its plan to count those ballots, but 4 justices signal interest in potentially revisiting that later.
The Trump campaign on Wednesday said it had also filed a lawsuit seeking to stop the vote count in Michigan, a state where Democrat Joe Biden held a narrow lead. And Wolf says even more lawsuits could come.
I think we will see more litigation, but the Supreme Court as an institution is probably reluctant to decide this election. Chief Justice Roberts has shown a tendency to take the court out of political disputes when he can. He knows Bush versus Gore in 2000 hurt the court's legitimacy by making it seem political, with 5 Republican-appointed justices handing a victory to a Republican president.
As of Wednesday, Biden appeared to be ahead of Trump in the election, and legal experts said if he secures 270 electoral votes without needing Pennsylvania, the likelihood of a legal fight in that state diminishes in any case.
Purple, foggy skies marked England's first day of a new month-long coronavirus lockdown Thursday. The streets looked very different from the hustle and bustle seen the night before, as Brits flocked to enjoy a final night out in pubs and restaurants before their stint indoors. Britain's virus death toll is the highest in Europe. It is also grappling with more than 20,000 new cases a day. Finance Minister Rishi Sunak announced fresh government support in an attempt to slow a surge in unemployment, including an extension to its furlough programme. Many other European nations are in the midst of nationwide lockdowns, and Greece is set to join them next. It ordered a 3-week nationwide lockdown on Thursday to help contain a resurgence of cases, its second this year after a spike in infections this week. Under the new restrictions, which will take effect from Saturday, retail businesses will be shut with the exception of supermarkets and pharmacies. Greeks will need a permit to venture outdoors at allocated times, and though primary schools will stay open, high schools will shut. Meanwhile, in the French capital, delivery and takeaway services for prepared food and alcohol will be banned between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. local time from Friday. Authorities say that the sale and consumption of alcoholic drinks in public spaces would be banned at night too.
Remdesivir, the antiviral that's been authorised in dozens of countries around the world to treat COVID-19, has been shunned by a World Health Organization-led program to supply COVID-19 drugs to poor countries. The WHO draft document, seen by Reuters and dated October 30, says the priorities are to secure what are called monoclonal antibodies, that is, manufactured copies of the antibodies human bodies create to fight infections. They're looking to secure these in a tight market and also to boost purchases and distribution of cheap steroid dexamethasone, which it has already booked nearly 3 million courses of treatment for poorer countries. The paper does not list remdesivir among priority drugs, which is a significant omission as it's the only other medication alongside dexamethasone approved across the world for treating COVID-19. Remdesivir's developer, Gilead, said the WHO scheme had not funded its COVID-19 trials and had never approached the firm for the possible inclusion of the drug in its portfolio. The drug supply scheme is co-led by the Wellcome Trust charity and Unitaid, a health partnership hosted by the WHO. Unitaid confirmed the scheme had not procured or funded remdesivir, and it did not comment on whether it may buy the drug in future or why it did not appear among priority treatments. Despite its use, preliminary findings of a major WHO-sponsored trial revealed in October that the antiviral had little or no benefit for COVID-19 patients. The program urgently needs $6.1 billion, $750 million of that by February.
Heavy fighting has broken out in Ethiopia's Tigray region, according to diplomatic sources, amid rising fears of a crisis that could destabilize the country and spread across the Horn of Africa. Military operations began on Wednesday after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed accused the region's ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front or TPLF, of attacking federal troops. On Wednesday, Deputy Prime Minister Demeke Mekonnen said that the, quote, act of treason, which he described as evil, should be defeated and humiliated. The TPLF said it would win, because arrogance, invasion and traitorous acts in our country are not our nature. Abiy's office has rejected as false a claim by the local government that the northern command of the federal army, stationed in the region, has defected to its side. But William Davison, senior Ethiopia analyst at International Crisis Group, believes the situation could lead to the fracturing and destabilization of Ethiopia's military.
Because Tigrayan officers, particularly based in Tigray, thought that they may not be loyal to the federal government in terms of its efforts to remove the TPLF leadership. So this could lead to a broader crisis throughout Ethiopia, and it could also spread to the Horn of Africa region.
Tigray is a small but influential Ethiopian region, with Tigrayans dominating the political landscape since 1991. But since Abiy came to power more than 2 years ago, many senior Tigrayan officials have been detained, fired or sidelined. The federal government says it's a clampdown on corruption, but Tigrayans see it as a means to quell dissent. With fighting taking place in the north, the tensions are also evident on the streets of the capital, Addis Ababa. In an area popular with Tigrayans, jewellery stores were closed and emptied of their stock on Wednesday, amid fears of looting and violence. Jewellery shop employee Tariq Hailu said chaos creates the perfect opportunity for robbery, but that losing property is not as bad as living without peace.
A North Korean man who crossed the heavily fortified border with the South has said he wants to defect, according to Seoul officials on Thursday. The man was taken into custody the day before in the demilitarized zone separating the two Koreas, just hours after he was spotted crossing barbed wire fences installed along the border, prompting an urgent search operation. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said Thursday authorities have launched an investigation into how the man managed to cross the frontier. JCS spokesman Kim Jun-rock,
I understand the person has expressed his willingness to defect. I am not able to provide more details as the related agency's investigation is still ongoing.
Kim said border controls were being further examined after the search for the man revealed that parts of the fences equipped with electronic monitors were found damaged, possibly by typhoons. He added that there was no sign of unusual movement by North Korean troops. The attempted defection comes just as Seoul reopens tours to the southern part of the DMZ. The tours had been suspended in October of last year after an outbreak in North Korea of African swine fever. The area has seen several armed clashes, but also served as a venue for key events between the Koreas, including some of the most recent summits between its leaders.
Luigi Pinzo has been cutting hair since the 1950s. He's seen Italy go through recessions and political assassinations. But it took the coronavirus to force the 80-year-old barber to hang up his scissors.
The decision to leave is mainly because there's less work, because these days everyone is at home and I'm working a lot less. Then the health situation has made me fearful given my age, so I'd prefer to retire.
Pinzo first started working in hairdressers when he was just 12 years old. By 1977, he opened his own barbershop in a well-to-do neighborhood in Rome. Italian business association Confcommercio estimates that up to 40% of shops in the country's capital have been forced to close because of the pandemic. Pinzo's small establishment, called Luigi, welcomed its final client on October 31st.
Everyone is just as affectionate with me as I am with them, so they will suffer from the closure. I've gotten many well wishes these days from people who have been very sad. One of them even cried. So part of me feels proud of what I've given them with my job.